I stand in the doorway of my parents' suburban home, a ghost at my own family gathering. Through the arched entryway, crystal glasses catch the light as they rise in unison. The bubbling champagne, the expensive kind Mom only brings out for special occasions, sparkles under the dining room chandelier. "To Evan," Dad announces, his voice carrying the pride he reserves exclusively for his son. Summa cum laude, and ready to take on the world. 20 faces beam toward my younger brother, who accepts their adoration with practiced humility. At 25, Evan has mastered the art of appearing both deserving and humble about the constant attention our parents shower upon him. I shift my weight, the floorboard creaking beneath me. No one turns. The bookstore logo on my uniform peeks from beneath my jacket, the nicest one I own, and suddenly I'm conscious of how out of place I look. Everyone else wears cocktail attire while I stand here in sensible shoes and the khaki pants I've worn through an 8-hour shift. Dad reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small box wrapped in silver paper. "One more thing, son." Evan tears into it with boyish enthusiasm, and when he lifts the lid, his eyes widen. He pulls out a key fob with a familiar luxury car emblem. "No way." He looks from the keys to our father, mouth open. "You didn't." "It's parked in the driveway," Dad says, clapping him on the shoulder. "You can't show up to interviews in that old clunker anymore." The crowd moves as one toward the front windows, exclaiming over the brand new black SUV parked proudly in the circular drive. I press myself against the wall to avoid being trampled, clutching the small package wrapped in bookstore paper. The book inside, a first edition of Evan's favorite childhood novel, cost 3 days' worth of tips. When the crowd disperses back to their drinks, I finally step into the light. Mom notices me first, her smile faltering before regaining its hostess brightness. "Oh, Kara, when did you get here?" She air kisses near my cheek, careful not to smudge her lipstick. "Everyone, this is our daughter. She works at..." "Where is it again, dear?" "Cornerstone Books." I answer, "the same place I've worked for the past 4 years. Dad looks me up and down, his eyes lingering on my uniform pants. "Couldn't you have dressed up a bit? It's your brother's graduation party." The weight of his disappointment is familiar. I swallow the explanation that I came straight from work, that I rearranged 3 shifts to be here at all. "Sorry," I say instead, the word automatic after 29 years of practice. I approach Evan and hold out my gift. "Congratulations." He takes it, giving the bookstore wrapping paper a quick glance before tossing it onto the growing pile of presents. "Thanks, sis." He turns to the man beside him. "This is Professor Harrington from the business department." The professor nods politely before Evan steers the conversation back to himself. "I was just telling him about my internship prospects." "At least someone has to work in this family," Evan adds with a laugh, gesturing to my uniform. The guests chuckle, and something inside me cracks. In that moment, I see it all with perfect clarity. The pattern stretches back through the years. My high school graduation, where they arrived an hour late because Evan had a baseball game. My 18th birthday, when I received secondhand luggage while Evan got the latest gaming system. The day my college acceptance letter arrived and Dad asked, "How will you pay for that?" While Mom reminded me how expensive Evan's future education would be. I've never been the child they wanted to show off. I step back, suddenly needing air. The memories keep coming. Working 40 hours a week at the bookstore, adding 15 more at Cafe Luna to make rent on my studio apartment where the bathroom sink doubles as my kitchen sink. Taking online business courses at midnight after double shifts. The small jar on my dresser labeled "Someday," where every extra dollar goes. I slip away from the celebration unnoticed. In the kitchen, I pour myself a glass of water, my hands trembling with exhaustion. The party sounds distant now. "Excuse me," a voice breaks through my thoughts. I turn to find an older man with salt and pepper hair and familiar eyes watching me. He gestures to my name tag, still pinned to my shirt. "You work at Cornerstone Books?" "Yes," I answer, wondering if he's another of Dad's business associates I should recognize. He studies me for a long moment. "You're Robert Matthews' daughter, aren't you?" Something in his expression makes me look closer. The shape of his jaw, the way he stands it, hits me suddenly. "Uncle Ben?" The name feels strange on my tongue. Dad's estranged brother, unseen at family gatherings for as long as I can remember. He nods, a small smile crossing his face. The black sheep himself. What are you doing here? I ask, glancing toward the living room where Dad holds court. Evan invited me. He leans against the counter. I was surprised to get the invitation, even more surprised to accept it. Before I can respond, he asks a question that stops me cold. Tell me, Kara, what are you working toward? No one has asked me that in years. Once the dinner was over, I went home quietly, and no one noticed. But I will make new plans with my Uncle Ben tomorrow, and my family does not know about it. The next day, the corner table at Café Luna sits tucked away from the evening rush, illuminated by a vintage lamp with a cracked amber shade. Uncle Ben checks his watch, a practical timepiece with a worn leather band, not the status symbols my father collects. Thank you for meeting me after your shift, he says. I rub my palm against my uniform pants, aware of the coffee stains I couldn't scrub out. I was surprised by your invitation. More surprised than seeing me at your brother's party? Touché, I smile despite myself. There's something disarming about his directness. Ben takes a sip of black coffee, studying me over the rim. You never answered my question. What are you working toward, Kara? The question hangs between us. People rarely ask about my ambitions. They ask if I can cover an extra shift or where we keep the romance novels. Business management? I admit finally, the words feeling foreign on my tongue. I've been taking online courses for 3 years, 18 credits to go. His eyebrows lift slightly. Why business? Because it's practical. Businesses need managers, and managers make decent money. I pause, weighing how much to reveal. And I like creating systems that work, making order from chaos. Ben nods, his expression neutral yet attentive in a way that makes me continue. My father thinks I lack ambition. The words slip out before I can stop them. Robert always had a narrow definition of success. Ben sets down his mug with purpose. Did you know I'm CEO of Sterling & Company? The name registers immediately. The operations consulting firm? The very one. 23 years building it from nothing. Pride edges his voice, not boastful but matter of fact. Your father never forgave me for not following the family plan. Which was? Join his insurance business, sell policies to people who don't need them, play golf on Wednesdays. Ben shrugs. I had different ideas. The parallels to my own situation sit heavy between us. My phone buzzes the manager from the bookstore asking if I can open tomorrow. I type a quick affirmative response. I noticed something about you today, Ben says suddenly. During the lunch rush. I look up, puzzled. The counter was chaotic, line out the door. 2 people called in sick. But you had a system. He leans forward. Orders to the left, money in the center, completed tickets to the right. You reset your station after every 3rd customer. My cheeks warm with surprise. No one notices things like that. How do you track multiple orders during peak times, he asks. I use color coding, I explain, my voice gaining confidence. Blue pens for coffee drinks, black for food, red for modifications. I write customer initials in the corners of cups. And I keep the register tape running as backup for disputed orders. Ben listens intently, nodding at certain points. When I finish, he pulls out a business card from his wallet, slides it across the table. Sterling & Company has an entry-level operations internship opening next month, he says. Pays $22 an hour, regular business hours with potential for advancement. The card's embossed lettering catches the lamplight. My heart hammers against my ribs. $22 an hour is nearly double what I make at the bookstore. Is this charity because you feel sorry for me? The question comes sharper than intended. Ben's face hardens. This is business. I recognize potential when I see it. I've never worked in an office environment, I counter, anxiety rising. My resume is just retail and food service. You've maintained 2 jobs while pursuing a degree. You've created efficient systems without formal training. You've survived your family. He counts these off on his fingers. Those are transferable skills. My mind races through calculations. 2 weeks' notice at both jobs. New clothes. Transportation costs. The terrifying possibility of failure. It's risky, I murmur. Ben regards me steadily. Your father chose security. I chose possibility. He stands, dropping cash on the table for both our coffees. The application deadline is Friday. Think about it. After he leaves, I sit alone, turning his card over in my fingers. The possibility feels both exhilarating and terrifying. Back in my studio apartment later that day, I stare at my someday jar, quarters and dollars accumulating with glacial slowness. At this rate, I'll have enough for a business wardrobe in approximately never. I spread my resume across the beta single page that looks impossibly thin. Assistant manager at Cornerstone Books, barista at Cafe Luna, online coursework in business administration, no prestigious internships. No impressive extracurriculars. Nothing that would catch anyone's attention except someone who already knew me. My phone sits heavy in my hand as I dial the bookstore's number. Margaret answers on the third ring. Hi, it's Kara. I need to give my 2 weeks' notice. There's a pause on the other end. Is everything okay? Yes, I say, the word unfamiliar but true. I've been offered an internship. After similar calls to the cafe and updates to my resume, I sit cross-legged on my bed, staring at the completed application on my laptop screen. The cursor blinks over the send button, a steady pulse like a heartbeat. I think of all the times I've played it safe, all the times I've chosen security over possibility. I click send. This time will be different, I whisper to the empty room. The next morning, I stand in Goodwill's business section, fingering the sleeve of a charcoal blazer. The price tag reads $12.99. I add it to my growing pilotwo blouses, a pencil skirt, dress pants. No navy blue anywhere, a color my mother always said washed me out. That night, I prop my phone against the bathroom mirror, following a YouTube tutorial on professional hairstyles, fingers tangling in my own hair as I attempt a French twist. My name is Kara Matthews. I practice to my reflection. I'm the new operations intern. The words sound false, like I'm playing dress-up. I try again, shoulders back. Kara Matthews. Operations. By the time I crawl into bed, the ceiling seems to pulse with my anxiety. Sleep eludes me as I rehearse answers to imaginary interview questions. What if everyone sees through me immediately? What if I'm the joke of the office? At 2:18 a.m., my phone illuminates with a text from a number I don't recognize. Nervous is good, it means you care. See you on Monday, Ben. I press the phone to my chest, breathe deeply, and close my eyes. For the first time in years, exhaustion isn't what pulls me towards sleep, it's possibility. On Monday, the Sterling and Company building stands 42 stories high, a monument of glass and steel that seems to pierce the clouds. I grip my second-hand briefcase tighter, its worn leather soft against my palm. The revolving door spins ahead, disgorging men and women in tailored suits who move with purpose and confidence. I check my watch, 7:25 a.m., 35 minutes early. Just another workplace, I whisper to myself, but the words ring hollow. Inside, the marble lobby gleams under recessed lighting. A security guard checks my ID, hands me a visitor badge, and points me toward a bank of elevators. Floor 28, he says. Operations. The elevator is crowded with people who smell of expensive cologne and coffee. I press myself into the corner, conscious of my department store blazer and the small scuff on my right shoe I couldn't buff out. First day? I turn to find a woman in her 50s beside me, her silver-streaked hair cut in a precise bob. Her eyes, sharp behind tortoiseshell glasses, take my measure. Yes, I manage. Operations internship. Diane Keller, operations manager. She doesn't offer her hand, just a slight nod. You're early. I wanted to get situated before orientation. Something flickers across her face, approval perhaps. You're Kara Matthews, Ben's niece. My stomach tightens. Of course everyone knows. Yes, but... Be in my office at 11:15. After orientation. The elevator stops and she steps out. Don't be late. The intern orientation passes in a blur of corporate jargon and paperwork. 8 of us sit in a conference room while Human Resources explains benefits we don't qualify for, and a company history I've already memorized. I take notes anyway, my hand cramping around my pen. The other interns exchange stories during a coffee break. Harvard, Stanford, Wharton. Their voices overlap as they discover mutual connections and summer homes. The confident handshakes, the casual mentions of family businesses. I stand apart, clutching a paper cup of mediocre coffee, suddenly aware that my online business courses might as well be from another planet. Matthews? A thin man with wire-rimmed glasses consults his clipboard. Diane's waiting. I follow him through a maze of cubicles to a glass-walled office where Diane sits reviewing documents. She gestures to a chair without looking up. Your first assignment. She slides a folder across her desk. Client database needs organization. Previous interns found it challenging. I open the folder to find hundreds of client records, some dating back 15 years. Handwritten notes crowd the margins, spreadsheets with inconsistent column headers. A mess of information with no apparent system. By when? I ask, already calculating hours. Friday. She finally looks up. Questions? 100 spring to mind. I swallow them all. No. Good. Desk 6 is yours. I find my assigned space, a beige cubicle with an outdated computer and empty bulletin board. 2 other interns occupy nearby desks, their spaces already personalized with photos and plants. They glance up as I sit, their eyes traveling from my face to my clothes and back again. Uncle Ben's project, right? The blonde one asks, her smile not reaching her eyes. Heat climbs my neck. I'm Kara. Madison. She turns back to her computer. Good luck with that database. It's where they send interns to fail. I spend the morning trying to make sense of the client records. Columns don't match across years. Contact information is scattered through notes. By lunch, my eyes burn from squinting at faded entries. The cafeteria buzzes with conversation and the clink of silverware. I scan the crowded tables, searching for an empty seat, when the weight of eyes turns my way. Whispers. A laugh. I retreat to the women's bathroom, lock myself in a stall, and press my forehead against the cool metal partition. My heart hammers against my ribs. What was I thinking? I don't belong here. Not with my discount store clothes and community college credits. Breathe. I order myself. Just breathe. 5 minutes. That's all I allow for panic. Then I straighten my blazer, splash water on my face, and return to my desk with a sandwich from the vending machine. The client records stare back at me, chaos in paper form. And then, I see it, the pattern hidden in the disorder. It reminds me of the cafe during morning rush. Dozens of orders, different preparations, various timing requirements. I created a system there, color-coded tickets and station arrangements that doubled our output. I pull a legal pad toward me and begin sketching a framework. Categories emerge, timelines, service patterns. I start creating a new spreadsheet, my fingers flying across the keyboard as the hours slip by. The office empties. 5 o'clock. 6. The cleaning crew arrives, vacuuming around my feet. My phone buzzes with a text from Uncle Ben. How was day 1? I don't answer. Can't break the flow now. By 9:30 p.m., my eyes blur with fatigue, but the system takes shape. Client interactions sorted by frequency and value. Complaint patterns identified by service type. Opportunity gaps highlighted by industry sector. When I finally leave, the security guard looks up in surprise. Working late on your first day? That's dedication. At home an hour later, I collapse into bed without removing my makeup. Sleep comes instantly. Morning arrives too soon. I jolt awake to my alarm, disoriented in the gray dawn. My phone screen shows a new email, received at 11:43 p.m. From diane.keller@sterling.com. Subject: See me in my office. My stomach drops. Did I miss something? Make an error? I shower and dress in a rush, arriving at the office by 8:15. Diane is already at her desk, coffee in hand. Matthews. She motions me inside. Sit. I perch on the edge of the chair, hands folded to hide their trembling. Security says you left after 10 p.m. I was working on the client database. Show me. I log into my computer as she stands behind me, her presence a weight on my shoulders. The spreadsheet opens, revealing my color-coded system, cross-references, and analytical charts. Diane is silent for a long moment. What's this section? She points to a highlighted column. Pattern recognition. Clients who reduced services after specific types of complaints. If you look at the timing, my finger traces across the screen. You can see most left within 3 months of an unresolved issue in the same category. She stares at the screen, then at me. You found this pattern in one day? It reminded me of tracking customer returns at the bookstore. Similar patterns, different context. Diane straightens, arms crossed. The Miller meeting is at 10. They're having retention issues. I saw that in their file. You'll sit in. Take notes. Don't speak unless spoken to. I blink. You want me in a client meeting? This, she taps the screen, might be useful. As she walks away, Madison passes my desk, coffee in hand. She glances at my screen, then at Diane's retreating form. Beginner's luck, she murmurs, just loud enough for me to hear. I watch her go, then turn back to my computer. The system I created glows on the screen. Order wrestled from chaos. My system, my work. I reach for a sticky note, write 3 words, and press it to the edge of my monitor where only I can see it. I belong here, it reads. And for the first time, I almost believe it. In 3 months, I will have an even stronger feeling of belonging. At the present, I stare at the notification lighting up my phone screen, thumb hovering over my mother's name. Linda Matthews sent you a message. The words pulse accusingly against the background of dozens of other LinkedIn notifications that have flooded my account since yesterday. 6 months at Sterling & Company, a lifetime away from bookstore name tags and cafe aprons. My company profile update yesterday celebrating my 100th day as operations analysts innocently above the company's featured post, the one where Mr./Prosided Plations on the Menalist 70 Satter /Plus. Williams from marketing highlighted my client tracking system as revolutionary for our workflow efficiency. The photo shows me beside Uncle Ben at the quarterly recognition dinner, both of us smiling. Both Matthews, the connection unmistakable. 17 connection requests, 23 congratulatory messages, and 3 missed calls from my father within the last hour. I tap my mother's message open. Sweetheart, we've always been so proud of you. Would love to hear all about your new position. It's been too long since we've seen you. The words blur slightly. We've always been so proud. The lie sits there, polished to a high shine, as if repeating it enough times might make it true. My phone buzzes with a text from Evan. Hey sis, congrats on the new gig. Let's catch up. I set the phone face down on my desk. Through my office window, the downtown skyline stretches toward a cloudless sky. My reflection in the glass looks different than it did 6 months ago, shoulders back. Hairstyled, tailored blazer instead of a uniform with someone else's logo. When my phone vibrates again, I already know who it is. We're having Sunday dinner at the house this weekend. Your mother's making pot roast. We'd love to see you there. My father, not asking if I'm free, assuming I'll come running at his summons like I always have. I consider the invitation, rolling it over in my mind like a stone. 6 months of silence while I worked 14-hour days learning systems and software. 6 months without a single call while I moved into my new apartment. 6 months where my family was Diane, who mentored me through every challenge, and the team that gradually accepted me despite my untraditional background. Now, suddenly, I exist again. I type a careful response. Thank you. I'll check my schedule. On Sunday that week, my parents' house looks smaller than I remember. The hedges need trimming. The brass knocker needs polishing. Details I wouldn't have noticed before Sterling & Company taught me to observe systems with a critical eye. Mother opens the door before I can knock, her smile stretched wide. Kara, look at you! She steps back, examining my simple dress and low heels. So professional. The house smells of pot roast and freshly baked rolls, the special occasion menu she never made when I visited during my bookstore days. In the dining room, crystal glasses sparkle beneath the chandelier. The good china gleams on placemats I've never seen before. My father rises from his chair, adjusting his tie. There she is, he says, as if we've been separated by circumstance rather than choice. Our corporate success story. My brother lounges against the sideboard, scrolling through his phone. He glances up, flashing the same practice smile he used at his graduation party. The prodigal sister returns. Hardly prodigal, I say, setting my purse on the entryway table. I've been working. Mother bustles to the kitchen, calling over her shoulder. Robert, pour Kara some wine, the Cabernet we've been saving. The wine they've been saving. For what occasion, I wonder? My promotion? Or the moment they realized I might be useful? Dinner progresses through carefully choreographed pleasantries. Mother asks surface questions about my apartment. Father inquires about Sterling and Company's client base, his interest suddenly awakened. Neither mentions the 6 months of silence. Kara, my father says as mother serves dessert, your brother has been developing a student finance app. Very innovative, perfect for today's college market. Evan leans forward, eager. It helps students track expenses, financial aid, scholarship applications. I've been working on it for months. I nod, taking a small bite of apple crisp. Sounds interesting. The thing is, Father continues, setting down his fork with deliberate care, he needs some guidance on the business side, someone with connections in the industry. Mother places a family photo album on the table, flipping it open. We were just looking at these old pictures yesterday. Remember Evan's science fair project in 10th grade? First place. The album is filled with Evan's achievements, football trophies, academic awards, graduation photos, not a single image of my community college ceremony where I sat alone in a sea of strangers. I couldn't find your graduation photos, Mother says, noticing my expression. You were always so independent. I guess we didn't take many. Maybe, Evan interjects, sliding his phone toward me. You could introduce me to Uncle Ben? Just a casual meetup. I'd love his perspective on my app. The real agenda surfaces, finally breaking through the thin veneer of family concern. Not my life, not my achievements, not even genuine reconciliation. Just access. To Ben, to Sterling and Company, to the connections they believe I can provide. I set my fork down carefully, folding my napkin with precision. The movements center me, reminiscent of how I organize my workspace before tackling complex problems. It's interesting to hear from everyone after so long, I say, my voice quiet but firm. Father shifts uncomfortably in his chair, recognizing the directness in my gazia look I never dared give him before. I don't mix family and business, I say, standing smoothly. Thank you for dinner. I have an early meeting tomorrow. The silence stretches between us, taut and revealing. For the first time in 29 years, I'm not the one who looks away first. Next week at the office, my phone buzzes for the 3rd time this morning. Evan's name flashes on the screen, accompanied by the same message as yesterday and the day before. Just need 10 mins with Uncle Ben, that's all I'm asking. I slide the phone face down on my desk at Sterling and Company and return to the quarterly reports. The numbers swim before my eyes as another notification pinks a voicemail from Mom this time. I wait until lunch to listen. Kara, honey, family supports each other, that's what we've always done. Her voice carries that familiar guilt-inducing tone. Your brother has worked so hard on this app idea. The least you could do is make an introduction. The least I could do, as if I owe them something after years of being overlooked. I delete the voicemail and unwrap my sandwich when Diane knocks on my office doorframe. Someone's been calling for you at the front desk. She leans against the door, her silver-framed glasses catching the light. Claims to be your father. 3rd time this week. A knot forms in my stomach. Did he leave a message? Just that it's family business. She makes air quotes with her fingers. Should I tell reception to block him? I take a deep breath. No, I'll handle it. After she leaves, I send a message to my father that I have a meeting and tell him to go back home. As I open my email, I find exactly what I expected. Evan has forwarded his business plan with a note. Can you send this to Uncle Ben? Dad says you should add a personal recommendation. Dad says, of course. The final straw arrives in the afternoon mail-in embossed invitation to Evan's birthday celebration. At the bottom, in Mom's handwriting, Uncle Ben welcome too. I crumple the invitation and toss it toward the trash. It bounces off the rim and lands on the floor, mocking me. The day has passed in meetings and team building, so I finally went home at night. They've never once asked how I'm doing at work. I tell Diane over coffee the next morning. We sit in the small cafe across from the office, early enough that the morning rush hasn't started. Not once, but suddenly they're interested in every detail of my relationship with Ben. Diane stirs her coffee slowly. At 56, she carries herself with the confidence of someone who stopped apologizing for taking up space decades ago. My brother tried something similar when I made partner at my old firm, she says. Suddenly wanted me to review his contracts, introduce him to clients. What did you do? I told him my professional relationships weren't family assets. She takes a sip. He didn't speak to me for a year. And now? Now he respects my boundaries. She shrugs. Sometimes family needs to learn you're not the same person they decided you were when you were 12. Later that afternoon, I knock on Ben's office door. He waves me in without looking up from his computer. The Westlake proposal looks good, he says. But their timeline is, he glances up. This isn't about Westlake, is it? I shake my head. My family. He sighs, removes his reading glasses. They've contacted me directly, you know. Your father called yesterday. Evan sent a LinkedIn request. I'm sorry, I start, but he holds up a hand. Don't apologize for them, not your job. He studies me for a moment. What do you need from me? The question catches me off guard. No one in my family has ever asked me that. I need to know how to handle this without burning bridges I might want to cross someday. Ben nods. Boundaries aren't walls, Kara. They're property lines. They show where you end and others begin. By the time I return to my desk, I've made a decision. That evening, Sarah from accounting shares her story of keeping her marriage separate from her family business. The next day, Jason from IT describes establishing professional boundaries with his well-connected cousin. I'm building a different kind of family here, I realize, one based on mutual respect rather than obligation. That same day, the email takes me 3 hours to write, though it's only 4 paragraphs long. I read it aloud to make sure every word carries exactly the weight I intend. I've noticed the sudden interest in my professional life coincides with discovering my connection to Uncle Ben. While I understand Evan is excited about his app idea, I need to be clear. I will not use my professional relationships as family currency. I've spent months building my reputation at Sterling and Company through hard work and dedication. That reputation is not something I'm willing to compromise. If we want to rebuild our family relationships, I suggest starting with getting to know each other as we are now, not as you need me to be. Perhaps Sunday dinners without business discussions would be a place to begin. Respect is earned in both directions. I'm willing to work on our relationship, but not at the expense of my professional integrity. I hit send before I can second-guess myself. On the evening of Evan's birthday celebration, I sit across from Uncle Ben at Lorenzo's, his favorite Italian restaurant downtown. Your father will be furious, Ben says, twirling pasta around his fork. I sent a gift. I take a sip of water. They'll survive without me. You know, your father and I stopped speaking because I wouldn't give him money for a business he wasn't willing to work for. Ben sets down his fork. He wanted success handed to him. When I suggested he start smaller and build something himself, he accused me of betrayal. The parallel to my current situation with Evan is unmistakable. Is that why you gave me a chance? I ask. Because I remind you of yourself? Ben shakes his head. I gave you a chance because you're nothing like either of us. Robert wanted shortcuts. I was too stubborn to compromise. You just quietly built your own ladder while no one was watching. The next morning, I send Evan another birthday gift book on entrepreneurship with a note. Success comes from hard work, not connections. That afternoon, I post photos of the mentoring session I've started for young professionals at Sterling and Company within hours. My phone lights up with a text from Mom. We miss you. I type back. I'm building my life now. Later, Dad's name appears on my ringing phone. I watch until it stops, the notification for a voicemail replacing it. We need to talk. For the first time, I don't feel compelled to answer immediately. My time, like my boundaries, has value, and I'm no longer willing to give either away for free. And in another 6 months, I'll be even stronger. I stand on my apartment balcony, watching the city lights flicker on as dusk settles. The contrast strikes me only a year ago. I would have been rushing between jobs, legs aching, counting tips in my head. Tonight, I breathe. Just breathe. Behind me, through the sliding glass door, my apartment spreads out in quiet testimony to what I've built. A real kitchen with actual counter space. An office nook where my business textbooks line a shelf, topped by the framed degree I completed 2 months ago. Business Administration. My name in official font. The someday jar sits on my coffee table, repurposed as a vase for fresh tulips that Sarah from accounting brought to my birthday dinner last night. 5 friends gathered around a restaurant table, laughing about office politics and raising glasses to celebrate not just my birthday but my recent promotion to senior analyst. My phone buzzes. A text from Dr. Winters confirming tomorrow's therapy appointment. 6 months of weekly sessions have helped me understand the family patterns that nearly crushed me. Family systems, she calls them. I call them survival lessons. Another message appears, Mom asking if Sunday coffee still works. Our monthly ritual now. She brings photos of their vacation or Dad's golf tournament. I share carefully selected stories from work. We orbit each other in this new galaxy, finding constellations that connect without colliding. Dad still struggles with the boundaries I've drawn. His Christmas card came with a brochure for a family financial advisor. His way of reaching out, I suppose. Progress measured in small gestures rather than grand apologies. Evan calls occasionally, asking about job search strategies. His app failed to launch. The SUV needed repairs he couldn't afford. Reality arrived for him later than most, but it arrived nonetheless. My phone rings. Diane. Just checking you're ready for tomorrow, she says without preamble. Presentations loaded, speech practiced, outfit chosen. I answer, ticking off my mental checklist. First speaking engagement. Nervous? I consider this. Prepared. She laughs. That's why you're my best analyst. Ben's coming, you know. Something warm spreads through my chest. Not the desperate need for approval that once drove me, but appreciation for the man who saw what no one else bothered to look for. After Diane hangs up, I rehearse once more how I'll describe resilience to a room full of business professionals tomorrow. How I'll tell them about the scholarship fund I started for working students, small now but growing. The young woman who approached me after last month's department meeting, eyes heavy with the same exhaustion I once carried, now scheduled for an informational interview next week. The cycle continues, but differently. My mother surprised me by attending the scholarship announcement ceremony. She sat in the back row, hands clasped tight around her purse. Afterward, she hugged me without air kisses. I'm trying to understand, she whispered. Not quite an apology, but perhaps the prelude to one. My phone buzzes once more. 2 messages. Diane. Committee approved your promotion recommendation. Operations manager position yours if you want it. Details tomorrow. Mom. Your father asking if you'd join us for dinner next Saturday. Just us. No expectations. I smile, realizing I can now choose both worlds on my own terms. The city lights below mirror the stars above, separate systems existing in the same sky. Tomorrow, I'll walk into Sterling & Company and see my new nameplate, Kara Matthews, Operations Manager. Uncle Ben will pass me in the hallway with that simple nod of respect he reserves for equals. I'll enter the conference room with steady steps, face a table of executives, and begin. Thank you all for coming. Let's talk about building something that lasts. Not just a career, a life. The pot roast sits untouched on my mother's floral-edged plate, a reminder of countless Sunday dinners just like this one. I breathe in the familiar aroma of carrots and onions, letting my fingers drift over the worn oak grain of the dining table. Everything in this room is exactly as it's always been, the yellowed lace curtains, the outdated wallpaper, the china cabinet displaying my mother's precious collectibles. I adjust my watch, a simple Cartier that would make my father scoff if he knew its value, and clear my throat. The investment round closed yesterday. 8.3 million. Dad's fork scrapes against his plate, his eyes fixed on his pot roast. Mom smooths her napkin, avoiding my gaze. The silence stretches like a rubber band ready to snap. That's nice, dear. Mom finally says, in the same tone she used when I showed her my kindergarten finger paintings. Though I still don't understand why you couldn't finish your business degree first. I swallow hard, tasting copper. 12 years of building my company from scratch, and they still see me as their wayward daughter playing at success. The company's valued at over 180 million now. We're expanding into 3 new markets next quarter. Dad's fork clatters against his plate. You're still uneducated, Sutton. Playing pretend with laptops and cafes. When are you going to get a real job? The words hit like a physical blow, but I keep my spine straight. Years of practice have taught me how to weather these storms without flinching. My company employs 78 people, Dad. We're helping small businesses access capital Lucky, Mom interrupts, reaching for the salt shaker. You're just lucky, that's all. Not successful. There's a difference. My chest tightens. I focus on breathing, on maintaining the careful mask I've perfected over years of these dinners. Through the window, I can see the same maple tree I used to climb as a child, its branches now bare against the November sky. I should go, I say quietly, pushing back from the table. Thank you for dinner. Yes, you should. Dad's voice cuts like ice. Get out of our house, you're an embarrassment. 3 years ago, those words would have shattered me. Now they simply confirm what I've always known but tried to deny. I stand, smoothing my cashmere sweater. Okay. That's all I say. Just okay. The walk to the front door feels longer than usual. Each step echoes with memories. Dad ripping up my business plan right here in the foyer. Mom's constant comparisons to real success stories. Their dismissive waves when I left college to pursue my first venture. I drive away from their middle-class neighborhood in my modest sedan, passing the local bank that denied my first loan application. My phone lights up with messages from my team about a major contract we've just landed. The contrast between my family's rejection and my team's celebration creates a hollow ache in my chest. At a stoplight, I catch my reflection in the rearview mirror. I look exactly as I did walking into their house an hour ago, polished, professional, put together. But something has shifted beneath the surface, like a foundation crack finally spreading wide enough to bring down a wall. The light turns green. As I accelerate, my phone buzzes again, another message about our expansion plans. My team is waiting, celebrating, building something extraordinary. Meanwhile, my parents sit in their dated dining room, clinging to their narrow definition of success, blind to the empire rising just beyond their view. I think of all the dinners like this one, spread across a decade of attempting to bridge an unbridgeable gap, of my father's dismissive glances and my mother's backhanded compliments, of the constant requirement to make myself smaller, dimmer, less successful to maintain their comfort. But tonight feels different. Tonight, the rubber band didn't just stretch, it snapped. I pull onto the highway as the sun sets behind me, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. My father's words echo in my head. Get out of our house. You're an embarrassment. For the first time, I feel neither shame nor anger at his rejection. Instead, I feel something unexpected. Relief. They've made their choice. Now I'm making mine. The highway stretches before me, leading away from their small world toward the vast horizon of possibility they've never been able to see. In my rearview mirror, their neighborhood grows smaller until it disappears completely. I touch my grandmother's watch, its familiar weight grounding me. She was the only one who ever believed in me, who saw beyond the confines of their traditional expectations. Build your own path, she used to tell me, even if you have to walk it alone. My phone buzzes one more time, another celebration message from my team. I allow myself a small smile as I merge onto the interstate. Sometimes the hardest endings are really beginnings in disguise. Sometimes walking away is the only way to finally stand tall. And sometimes, just sometimes, an embarrassment becomes an empire. Welcome to mine. Later that night, the gates of Pelican Bay slide open silently as I approach, their wrought iron scrollwork catching the last rays of sunset. My car glides past manicured gardens and swaying palms, a world away from my parents' cramped suburban street. 3 years ago, when I bought this place, I almost sent them the listing, another futile attempt to prove my worth. I'm glad now that I didn't. Welcome home, Miss Merrick. The house system greets me as I enter the foyer. Soft lights illuminate the space automatically, and the evening's financial reports project onto the living room's smart glass wall. The Dow is down, but our latest algorithm caught the dip perfectly. I pause at my wall of achievements, not for vanity, but for grounding. Forbes, 40 under 40, Fast Company's most innovative companies, the Wall Street Journal profile that called our fintech platform revolutionary. My father would probably mistake. them for cheap decorations from HomeGoods. My home office beckons, its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the dark water of the Gulf. 6 screens pulse with real-time market data, tracking our operations across 3 continents. A text from Thomas flashes on my phone. Team breakfast tomorrow? The expansion numbers look incredible. I smile, thinking of my COO's unwavering support since our startup days in that cramped WeWork space. Back when my father was telling everyone I was between real jobs, Thomas was securing our first round of angel funding. Would you like your evening tea, Miss Merrick? Carmen, my chef, appears quietly at the door. She's been with me for 2 years, ever since I finally admitted that living on protein bars wasn't sustainable. Yes, please. And can you prepare breakfast for 8 tomorrow? The executive team's coming at 7:30. Of course. Your usual steel-cut oats and berries? I nod, grateful for her simple understanding of my preferences. No judgment, no passive-aggressive suggestions about proper meals like my mother's. Morning arrives with the kind of golden light that makes Sarasota feel magical. My executive team filters in, dressed in everything from suits to hoodies, exactly the culture I've worked to create. They gather around my breakfast table, diving into Carmen's perfectly prepared spread. The quiet billionaire strikes again. Sarah, my CFO, teases as I pad in wearing my favorite Allbirds sneakers and a simple black dress. Did you see the latest valuation numbers? Thomas shoots her a knowing look. She probably calculated them before any of us woke up. They're right, of course. My 41% stake in the company puts my net worth well into the billions, at least on paper. Not that I'd ever tell my parents that. They'd either dismiss it as fake or demand their fair share. The meeting shifts to our headquarters downtown, a converted warehouse space that feels more like a community than an office. The lobby wall showcases photos of our team building houses with Habitat for Humanity, teaching coding at local schools, celebrating product launches together. Open Door Wednesday is in full swing. Junior developers and interns pop into my modest office, pitching ideas without fear. On my desk, surrounded by minimalist decor, sits my one indulgence, a first edition Hemingway, The Old Man and the Sea, a reminder that the greatest struggles often happen in silence. Your father would never allow this chaos. My mother's voice echoes in my head as I listen to a young analyst's passionate pitch about blockchain integration. I push the thought away, focusing instead on the brilliant spark in the analyst's eyes. Evening finds me on my private balcony, the Gulf of Mexico stretching endless and dark before me. My tablet displays old family photos, birthdays, holidays, forced smiles hiding constant criticism. A single tear escapes before I can catch it. My gratitude journal lies open beside me, today's entry still blank. I pick up my pen. Grateful for the team that became family, the strength found in rejection, the freedom to build without permission, the peace in choosing myself. My phone buzzes. Margaret, my former professor turned mentor, the only parental figure who ever truly saw me. Heard about the investment round, she says warmly. Proud of you, kid. Always knew you'd change the world your way. I grip the phone tighter, thinking of all the young entrepreneurs who faced the same battles I did. The ones told to dream smaller, to conform, to accept limitations placed by others. The sun disappears completely, leaving me alone with the sound of waves and the weight of everything I've built. In my mind, I hear my father's voice again. You're an embarrassment. I look out at my empire, the home, the company, the life they never saw and would never understand. The question isn't whether I'm an embarrassment to them. The question is, what would you build if you knew no one could stop you? I already have my answer. It's everything they see as failure. And it's magnificent. 2 weeks later, the morning light streams through our boardroom's floor-to-ceiling windows, catching the dust motes that dance above our expansion plans. I'm mid-sentence about our Asian market strategy when my phone lights up again. Avery's name flashes across the screen for the 4th time in 30 minutes. As you can see from these projections, my voice falters as the phone buzzes again. Thomas catches my eye, giving me a slight nod. Take 5, everyone, he suggests, already standing. The team files out, leaving me alone with the persistent glow of my sister's calls. Avery. I keep my voice neutral, professional. The sob that comes through the speaker is anything but. Sutton, you have to help. Mom's been crying for days. Dad's account is frozen. They're losing the house. My stomach tightens, but my hand remains steady as I pull up my tablet. Slow down, what happened? Some investment thing. Dad says it was guaranteed returns, but now the company's being investigated for fraud and, she breaks off, hiccuping. They put everything into it. Everything. The words hit like ice water. Of course they did. Because my father, who lectured me about real investment versus playing with computers, would never admit he didn't understand something. After the call, I spend my lunch hour researching the scheme. Continental Asset Protection, a fraudulent insurance investment program promising 12% annual returns. They'd taken my parents' retirement savings, their home equity, everything they'd built over 40 years. My personal phone shows 16 missed calls from their number. The text from my father lands like a body blow. We need help. Just a small loan to cover property tax. We'll pay you back. I stare at those words, remembering every dismissive comment about my little computer project. Every holiday dinner where they acted like my success was a personal affront. Every time they told relatives I was still finding myself while I was building a company worth millions. My fingers hover over the keyboard before typing, business, not personal, rates apply. The siege begins slowly, then builds like a hurricane. Aunt Marie calls first, her voice dripping with practiced guilt. They're old school, Sutton. They didn't mean it like that. Your father's pride. You know how he is. Yes, I reply coolly. I do know exactly how he is. My cousin's social media posts appear next. Vague statements about family responsibility and honoring thy father and mother. Each one tagged with my name. Each one more pointed than the last. My brother-in-law leaves a voicemail that makes my assistant gasp when she screens it. Something about Christian duty and burning bridges. I delete it without listening to the end. You don't understand what they're going through. Aunt Marie tries again. I've forgiven them, I tell her, watching the market ticker scroll across my office wall, but I'm not responsible for them. The call from building security comes 3 days later, while I'm reviewing quarterly reports. Ma'am, there's an older couple downstairs claiming to be your parents. They don't have approval for entry. My heart stutters as I pull up the security feed. There they are, standing awkwardly in my building's marble lobby. My mother clutches a photo album to her chest, the one full of carefully curated happy memories. My father holds what looks like one of her homemade apple pies, the kind she used to make when she wanted something from me. They look smaller somehow, out of place among the sleek furniture and modern art. My mother's cardigan is slightly faded. My father's shoulders stooped in a way I've never seen before. I'm not available, I tell security, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. Unapproved guests are not allowed. I watch them leave through the revolving door, their reflections fragmenting in the glass. The pie tilts precariously in my father's grip. My mother's hand reaches out to steady it, always trying to fix his mistakes even now. Thomas appears in my doorway as their car pulls away. He doesn't ask if I'm okay. Instead, he says, "The Singapore team is ready for our call." I nod, grateful for the anchor of work, the solid ground of the life I've built. On my desk, next to the Hemingway, sits the framed article that started all this, the announcement of our $8.3 million investment round. The one my father had dismissed as beginner's luck. My phone buzzes with another text from Avery. They just wanted to talk. You could have at least seen them. I think of all the times I wanted to talk. All the times I needed them to see me. All the moments they chose their pride over their daughter. I'm in meetings all day. I text back, then silence my phone. The Singapore team is waiting. The markets are moving. Life goes on, whether they understand it or not. And sometimes forgiveness means loving yourself enough to keep walking forward, even when the people behind you are calling you back. The email arrives at 3 a.m. 3 days later, its notification light pulsing in my darkened bedroom like a distress signal. Subject line: "We made mistakes. Please read." Sender: Mom. I wait until morning, until I'm settled at my desk with coffee and market reports. Thomas's daily briefing sits untouched beside me as I finally click open the message. Dearest Sutton, remember the treehouse Dad built you when you were 7? You'd sit up there for hours with your calculator and notebook, already planning your future. We thought it was just playing. We should have seen you were building dreams. I found these photos yesterday. Attached are scanned images. Me at my first science fair clutching a blue ribbon for my cryptocurrency simulation model. My high school graduation, where I'd announced I was skipping college to start my company. Family Christmas 3 years ago, the last one before everything imploded. The email continues, dancing around any direct acknowledgement of harm, weaving nostalgia with careful omissions. No mention of Dad calling my business plan pixie dust and wishful thinking. No reference to the dinner where Mom suggested I get a real job, while my seed funding announcement sat unread on their counter. The closing paragraph twists the knife. We'd love to visit your new place by the lake. It looks so peaceful in those magazine photos. Remember how we used to take you girls swimming every summer? Family meant everything then. I read it twice, my coffee growing cold. The manipulation is artful. She's always been good at that, painting pretty pictures over ugly truths. My fingers hover over the keyboard before I forward the entire thread to my assistant with 2 words. Archive. No reply. The lobby call comes the next day. Miss Merrick, your sister Avery is here. She doesn't have an appointment. I glance through the glass walls of my office. The trading floor buzzes with activity, analysts moving between screens displaying real-time market data. Our latest algorithm just cleared beta testing. I'll come down. Avery stands out among the suits and sleek dresses, her teacher's casual wear marking her as clearly as her anxious posture. Several employees pretend not to watch as I approach. This isn't appropriate, I say quietly. Neither is ghosting your family. Her voice carries, drawing more attention. They're going to lose everything, Sutton. Lower your voice. I guide her toward a side corridor, away from curious eyes. They chose to invest without research. Actions have consequences. They're telling everyone you abandoned them. Aunt Marie says you've changed, that success has made you cold. Success didn't change me, Avery. It revealed me, and them. Her face crumples. How can you be so calculating about this? Because someone has to be. Did you know Dad refused financial advice from my CFO last year? Called it millennial nonsense and went with that scam instead. He was trying to protect their retirement. He was protecting his pride. There's a difference. Later that week, I sit in Dr. Warner's office, watching storm clouds gather over the city skyline. I've spent a decade seeking their approval, I tell her, tracing the leather grain of her couch. Building something extraordinary, hoping they'd finally see me. And now? She asks. Now I'm tired. Every achievement becomes another weapon for them to use against me. Every success is luck, or that computer thing, or proof I've forgotten my roots. She lets the silence stretch, then asks, what would happen if you accepted they'll never give you that approval? The question hits like a thunderclap. I think of all the energy I've spent translating my world into terms they might understand. All the holiday dinners spent defending basic business concepts. All the carefully carved space I kept for them in my life, even as they filled it with doubt and dismissal. Then I'd be free, I whisper, and the truth of it brings tears I didn't expect. The magazine cover drops 2 weeks later. The photographer had captured me at dawn, barefoot on my lake house balcony, the morning light turning everything to gold. My coffee mug, a gift from Thomas, reads, self-funded in bold letters. The headline above my head declares, no degree, no apology, just results. The article tells my story plainly. Small-town girl builds $180 million fintech empire without venture capital or family support. It quotes my TED Talk about algorithmic trading democratization. It mentions the scholarship foundation I've started for young women in tech. The group text from my extended family lights up within hours. Aunt Marie, a little humility goes a long way, Sutton. Uncle James, your father built houses for 40 years, that's real work. Mom, we just want our daughter back. I read their words once, then delete the thread. Through my office window, I can see a young intern giving her first presentation to the trading team. Her hands shake slightly as she points to her projections, but her voice is clear and confident. I think of Caroline, Avery's daughter, who sent me a private message last week asking about coding boot camps, who signs her emails future CEO and doesn't let her parents know we talk. The storm clouds have passed. The lake will be perfect for swimming this weekend, its waters clear and cool. I'll sit on my balcony with my self-funded mug and watch the sun rise over my choices, my peace, my truth. Sometimes the hardest part isn't building your dreams. It's protecting them from the people who should have helped you build them in the first place. A month later, on the day we finally wrapped up the project, The champagne flows freely in our main conference room, developers and analysts mingling as we celebrate landing the Goldman contract. Thomas raises his glass, pride evident in his gesture toward the team that made it happen. To democratizing fintech, one algorithm at a time. My phone vibrates against the marble conference table. Another email from Mom. The subject line is simpler this time. We were wrong. I excuse myself, sliding past congratulatory huddles to reach my office. The city sparkles beyond my windows, a testament to possibilities realized. I take a deep breath and open the message. Dear Sutton, we've spent weeks trying to find the right words. Your father and I know now that we failed you, not just recently but throughout your journey. Our pride and fear blinded us to your vision. If there's any space for us again in your life, we'd be grateful for the chance to learn, to understand, to be present in whatever way you'd allow. We love you. Mom. Everything okay? Thomas appears in my doorway, concern etched on his features. He's known me long enough to read the subtle tension in my shoulders. They're trying again. I turn my screen toward him, more direct this time. He scans the message, jaw tightening. Thanksgiving 3 years ago. Remember? I do. The memory rises unbidden, Dad interrupting my investor pitch practice to lecture about honest work, while Mom nodded along, both of them talking over my attempts to explain market algorithms. I'd left early, their dismissal following me into the cold November night. Yeah. I minimize the email. Different words, same song. What are you thinking? He leans against my desk, protective as always. I'm thinking I need some perspective. The next morning, I sit across from Dr. Warner, watching rain trace patterns down her office windows. What would boundaries look like? She asks after I share the email. If you were to consider allowing them back into your life? I've thought about this during sleepless nights. They'd need to respect my work, my choices. No more dismissive comments about computer money or luck. No financial entanglement. I pause. And they'd need to acknowledge the harm, really acknowledge it, not just gesture at it. And do you believe they're capable of meeting those requirements? The rain intensifies, drumming against glass. No, I whisper. I don't. That evening, I meet Marion, my former professor and longtime mentor, at our usual wine bar. She listens intently as I explain the situation, swirling her Cabernet thoughtfully. Forgiveness is for you, she says finally. It lightens your load, clears your path forward. But access? She sets down her glass. Access is earned through consistent respect and genuine change. Don't confuse the two. Back home, I sit on my lake house balcony with my journal, the same one I've kept since starting my company. Its pages hold every milestone, every setback, every moment of doubt and triumph. I begin to write. Dear Mom and Dad, I've spent years translating myself into a language you could understand, only to realize you never wanted to learn it. Every achievement became another reason to diminish me. Every success triggered another lecture about real work and staying humble. You didn't just doubt my dreams, you actively worked to discourage them. And when those dreams proved stronger than your doubt, you labeled me cold, ungrateful, changed. But I haven't changed. I've simply stopped apologizing for who I've always been. The words flow faster now, truth spilling onto paper. I write through sunset, through darkness, until the lake reflects moonlight like scattered diamonds. In the morning, I craft my final email. I've read your message carefully. You say you want to understand now, to learn, to be present. But understanding requires humility. Learning demands genuine curiosity. Presence means accepting reality rather than trying to reshape it. You taught me what it means to be unwanted. I've learned what it means to want myself anyway. I forgive you, but forgiveness doesn't include access. You won't be part of this chapter because you tore out the pages yourselves. Sutton, CEO, self-made. My finger hovers over the send button. Through my office windows, I can see our development team arriving, their energy palpable even from here. We're launching a new feature today, one that will help thousands of small investors build safer futures. I press send, then immediately block their addresses. Later that afternoon, I meet with my lawyers to establish a modest trust fund for my parents. The terms are clear. Monthly stipend for basic needs, managed by a third party, no direct contact required or permitted. Avery calls within hours. You're being cruel, she says, voice thick with accusation. They need you. They need security, not me. I've provided one without sacrificing the other. Is this really what success looks like to you? Cutting off your own parents? No, Avery. Success looks like peace. Like building something meaningful without constantly defending its worth. I pause, thinking of Caroline and her quiet dreams. Success looks like breaking cycles instead of perpetuating them. The line goes quiet. When she speaks again, her voice is smaller. I don't understand you anymore. You never did. That's not your fault. You weren't supposed to. You were supposed to follow the script they wrote. I just chose to write my own. After we hang up, silence settles over my office like fresh snow. No more calls, no more emails, no more emotional warfare disguised as family obligation. I pick up my self-funded mug and walk to the window. Below, a young developer is showing her mother around our office, gesturing excitedly at her workspace. The mother beams with genuine pride, asking questions, learning her daughter's language. Some dreams need protection from the very people who should have helped build them. But other dreams? They find the right gardeners, the ones who understand that growth requires both roots and wings. I touch the cool glass, my reflection overlaying the city beyond. In it, I see the 7-year-old girl in her treehouse, already knowing her path. She smiles, finally free. 6 months can change everything, or nothing at all. Standing at the podium of our foundation's first scholarship ceremony, I watch 5 young women receive their startup grants, each clutching their ceremonial check with the same fierce pride I once held my first investment contract. Dreams shouldn't depend on zip codes or last names, I tell the packed auditorium. They should depend on grit, vision, and the courage to bet on yourself when no one else will. From the front row, Thomas gives me a subtle nod. He knows the weight behind these words, has watched me transform rejection into revolution over the past half year. Our educational platform, Self-Made Academy, launched last month with 10,000 signups in the first week. Every lecture I record feels like a letter to my younger self, each module a roadmap I wish I'd had. After the ceremony, one of our grant recipients approaches, hands still shaking slightly. Miss Merrick? I'm Jessica Chen. My parents wanted me to become a pharmacist, but I've been coding since I was 12. I recognize the tension in her shoulders, the careful way she holds herself, as if expecting her dreams to be dismissed at any moment. Tell me about your startup, I say, leading her toward the refreshment area. Her eyes light up as she describes her AI-driven personal finance app for first-generation immigrants. My father calls it my expensive hobby. She adds, voice dropping, says I'm throwing away my degree. My father called my first algorithm computer games. I share, watching understanding dawn in her expression. Now that algorithm manages billions in transactions. Sometimes the people closest to us are the last to see our vision clearly. How did you? She hesitates. How did you keep going? I stopped waiting for permission to believe in myself. I hand her my card. Call my office Monday. We'll set up some mentoring sessions. Later that evening, I'm reviewing applications for our next grant cycle when Thomas drops by with takeout from our favorite Thai place. Productive day? He asks, distributing containers across my desk. 5 more founders launch toward their dreams, I say, reaching for the pad thai. Plus, the educational platform hit 15,000 users this morning. He settles into his usual chair, tie loosened. Avery called the office again. My chopsticks pause halfway to my mouth. Same message? Caroline's graduation next month. She wants you there. I set down my food, appetite fading. And your parents won't attend if you're going. Apparently they're still. He searches for the right word. Hurt? I supply. Wounded? Victimized by their own consequences? Something like that. He studies me carefully. What are you thinking? I turn to my window wall where the city lights mirror the stars above. I'm thinking about Caroline, about breaking cycles. The next morning, I send Caroline a private message. Your dreams matter more than their comfort. Your path belongs to you. I won't attend your graduation, not because I don't want to, but because your moment shouldn't be overshadowed by their drama. Instead, I've arranged something else. Check your email. I attach the details of her surprise. Acceptance into our summer entrepreneurship program, complete with housing and a stipend. Her response comes within minutes. Thank you for seeing me. The morning's meetings blur together until my quarterly lunch with Marion. Over grilled salmon and asparagus, I update her on the foundation's progress. You've built quite the legacy these past months, she observes, though not the kind your parents would recognize. No, I agree. Not their kind of legacy at all. She takes a thoughtful sip of wine. And how are you? Really? I consider the question, thinking back to those turbulent family dinners, those tear-filled phone calls, those constant demands for validation I could never quite provide. I'm at peace. I realize, truly at peace. It shows, she says softly. You're not carrying them anymore. That evening, I lead a virtual masterclass for our platform's members. Hundreds of faces fill my screen, each representing a dream that someone, somewhere, probably told them to abandon. I share my journey, not the sanitized version, but the real one, complete with family rejection and lonely victories. Success isn't just about numbers. I tell them. It's about building something that aligns with your truth, even when that truth makes others uncomfortable. It's about choosing yourself repeatedly until it becomes natural. A question pops up in the chat. How do you deal with family who don't support your vision? I smile, thinking of Jessica Chen, of Caroline, of my younger self. You love them enough to let them be wrong about you. After the class, I walk through our empty office, past the wall where we display our founders' successes. 5 new photos join the collection this week, women who refuse to shrink their dreams to fit others' expectations. In their eyes, I see the same determination that once drove me to build this company from my studio apartment, fueled by rejection and ramen noodles. My phone buzzes with a text from Thomas. Dinner tomorrow? New Italian place on 5th? Only if you're ready to hear about my next big idea, I reply. Always am. 7 p.m. I look out at the city I've helped reshape, at the legacy I'm building not through obligation but through choice. Perfect, I text back. I'll bring the blueprints. The peace that settled into my bones these past 6 months isn't the quiet of surrender. It's the calm of knowing exactly who I am and choosing to be that person completely. No apologies, no compromises, no permission required. Some might call it cold, some might call it cruel, but I call it clarity, the kind that only comes when you stop trying to translate your dreams into a language they were never meant to speak. I gather my things, ready to head home. Tomorrow brings another day of building, teaching, leading, another day of showing others that their dreams don't need family approval to be valid. Another day of living the truth I had to learn the hard way. Sometimes the greatest act of love is letting go of the people who can't love you as you are,